If you are in the beginning stages of the business or your growing stage of your business, those might be seasons of your business that you might need to up your visibility. If you're in a launch phase or something like that, you might need to up your visibility. In other seasons, maybe not so much. But the point is, you have to, at some level, always be visible for your audience, for your market in your business, right? So if you are someone who's in the beginning stages, or you're someone who, you haven't really worked your way up to that level of visibility as you would like yet, please leave that in the comments, because I guarantee you will see that there are other people out there that are likely, experiencing the same thing you are. So what happens as a result of this fear? Most people end up sitting quietly from the sidelines, just watching as others grow, as others do things that they wish they could be doing or should be doing. And then all the self-doubt starts to kick in. All the wondering if you're good enough starts to kick in. All the when is it ever going to happen for me starts to kick in, right? And I think what happens so often, and I think one of the reasons why this is such a common issue for so many online business owners in particular, is because when it comes to visibility, right? With the online world being so in your face all the time, right? With so many people marketing their businesses to you on a daily basis, it's so often that you are seeing how someone else is showing up in their business, how someone else is getting visible. And it's very likely, very, very likely that you're sitting there comparing yourself to how that person is doing it, or what, or the way that person is doing it, or the way that person looks or sounds or delivers their content, or whatever the case may be. And I think what happens so often, we start to compare ourselves to, should I be doing it that way? Should I be like saying things that way, or getting on stories that way, or doing all the things however you're seeing someone else do it, right? And we set up this false expectation in our brain around how we should be showing up, or how we should be getting visible, based on someone else's character, someone else's personality, someone else's strengths, someone else's business model. And then what ends up happening is that you lose that sense of what feels and what is authentic for you, right? So I want to address that in a little bit later on today. There's nothing wrong with like admiring and like sort of being inspired by how other people are showing up. There's a sense of strength in looking at that and using that as a confidence booster and using that as a motivator, right? But it's when you look at that and then that actually limits you and prevents you from showing up, that's when it kind of gets tricky and dangerous. So here's what I found. I have found that once you can identify, right, and isolate what is behind the fear, it becomes a lot easier for you to actually break through it. So I'm going to say that again. When you can identify and isolate what is behind the fear, it becomes a lot easier for you to actually break through it. Because what happens is, if you're sitting there and you're afraid to get visible, or you should be getting more visible, or you're intimidated by what you're seeing out there, or thinking that you should be showing up in a certain way, and you don't take the time to really identify and isolate what's behind that fear, it is so easy for you to start making all the stories up in your brain around why you should be getting visible, or why you're not getting visible, or what it means about you because you're not getting visible, or what it means about your business because you're not getting visible, right? All the stories start to come up and start to just kind of like get into your pretty little head and make it mean something about you, or make you start wronging yourself, right? Let me know if this is making sense for you guys, right? So again, when you can identify and isolate, okay, my problem with getting visible is not that something is wrong with me. It's not that somebody's going to judge me. It's not that I'm, inadequate and I don't know what to say, but it's that, you know what? I don't know how to use freaking stories, right? Let's just use that for example, right? I don't know how to use stories. That is a problem. You have just extracted what the problem is, the real problem, not the story you've made up, but the real problem. And you can actually solve for that problem. So that means maybe I need to just kind of like experiment with this thing, play with this thing, and figure out how to use it, right? If you can extract and identify that the problem is, I don't know what to write, I don't know what my ideal clients want to hear, that's a really tangible problem that you can solve, because that means you need to go back and figure out who's your target market, what are the things that they're struggling with, what is it that they want to hear, and then you can start creating content and getting visible and showing up around those things, right? That's a tangible problem that you can solve. That removes all of the stories that you make up in your brain or how you wrong yourself in your brain for not showing up or not getting visible. And that actually gives you a focus point on where you need to be solving in order for you to get visible. That is like sort of some of like the core tangible things that you guys can start doing right away. Like think about, what is the fear? What is the thing behind your fear that is showing up for you, and solving for that. Get clear, identify and isolate what those things are and solve those problems. Getting your business out there, especially if you're running an online business, you need to be getting visible. Like there's no skirting around it. You have to get visible. And it doesn't have to look like stories or TikTok or anything like that. It has to be what feels good for you. I'm going to talk about that in a quick second, because again, you don't need to be comparing yourself to how someone else is getting visible, like however that person putting on music and like having a good old time. That's authentic for them, right? You have to find the thing that's authentic for you and show up and do that consistently and do more of that. But here's the trick. If you're never willing to try and you're never willing to actually show up and experiment and play with it, you'll never know what's authentic for you, right? Because you will never actually have been out there and done it. So you've got to be willing to fall down, get a little red in the face, and put yourself out there. You've got to be willing to write copy and throw it out and test it into the world. You've got to be willing to go on video or show up in whatever way until you find the way that feels true and authentic for you. There's no right or wrong platform. There's no like specific right or wrong platform. It's about knowing and understanding who your ideal clients are and understanding what their sort of behavior patterns are, their psychographics are, and showing up in those places for them. And then to add to that, I always say, show up in the platform that you enjoy the most. I guarantee you guys, if you go through this process and you examine what's the thing behind the thing, you identify and you isolate, it will become so much easier for you to solve the right problem and to break through this fear.